Welcome to my market commentary for the second quarter of 2024. Good morning. Well, if we thought that the first quarter of this year was busy, it was fairly tame compared to the second. Between wars, elections, assassination attempts, and all manner of global ill feeling, equity markets, that's shares, managed to rise very pleasingly. Indeed, the FTSE 100, which is stuffed full of assets that do well on global conflict, shot up by some 9.6% over the 3 months to the 21st of May. Even the FTSE 250, which represents smaller UK businesses, had a good time of things. Elsewhere, the S&P 500 in the US grew by around 4.1% over the same time period. The picture was not as rosy, however, for bond markets, with prices actually falling at points. So, what has been happening? Well, at the risk of sounding a little one-dimensional, the plight of both markets is summed up in two simple words: interest rates. Equity markets got excited as they guessed that central banks would slash interest rates very soon. Indeed, there was a chance that the Bank of England would be the first to kick off the rate cut in May or June. This was expected to be followed swiftly by the European Central Bank and then the Federal Reserve in the US, probably towards the end of the summer. This led to a frenzy of buying activity in riskier assets. The FTSE 100 soared to new all-time highs because a cut in interest rates here in the UK will weaken the pound. This is perfect for FTSE 100 companies, as they are exporters who thrive in a weak pound environment. The party had begun. Now, all that remained was for the cake to arrive imminently. Bond markets, however, were more sceptical. They have been caught out too many times by speculation, and so they sat this one out. Investors fled from cautious bond assets to equities and waited for the central banks to make their move. In the last 10 days or so, we have now seen new inflation and employment data coming through in both the United States, UK and Europe, and none of it looks good for the interest rate cut camp. That's a mouthful. The fact is that Western economies are not doing badly enough to warrant interest rate cuts. Central bankers today are run by independently set inflation targets. They fixate on one thing: seeing inflation come back to that target. Now, in the UK's case, we're still not quite at the 2% per year inflation target, with recent figures showing consumer price inflation at 2.3% to April this year. Now, everyone who watched in horror as inflation shot up despite rate rises in 2022 and 23 will know that it takes a very long time for interest rate rises or cuts to take effect. It therefore would make perfect sense for the Bank of England to announce a rate cut at their meeting on June the 20th this year, because they can see that past cuts have been working and now they need to get ahead of deflationary risks, which can be catastrophic news in the long term for a nation's economy. However, the Bank of England are somewhat hamstrung by the need to hit that target of 2%. If they cut too early and then external global pressures increase inflation, they will get the blame. So where am I going with all of this? In short, we need to be very careful about dancing at the party. We need to see the cake come out first. To get the cake, we actually need to see Western economies either struggling or targets exactly being hit. I may be wrong. The Bank of England might decide to actually get ahead of the rate rhetoric in a few weeks' time. However, both equity and bond markets have stopped believing this is likely, and so they've given up the faith for now, packing up their party clothes and heading home. hence the drop back in indexes. Even though we're facing multiple headwinds to market success, such as UK and US elections, two very serious wars, several tense military potential conflicts, and inflation worries, markets are actually delivering for investors. All 8 of our portfolios have achieved better growth to date this year than high street savings accounts. Now, of course, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it's encouraging to see long-term investors rewarded once again for their patience. I do hope that you enjoy your quarterly proactive review. We're living in strange times, but we are navigating our way through them together. As ever, we're here for you if you need anything at all. Nothing is too much trouble.